He was the boy next door, the law student, the charming young man who offered to help you carry your groceries. He was handsome, intelligent, and had a disarming smile. No one suspected the monster lurking beneath the surface. Ted Bundy, one of America's most notorious serial killers, shattered the illusion of normalcy, exposing the dark side of human nature that hides in plain sight. His story is a chilling reminder that evil often wears the mask of charisma, preying on our trust and vulnerabilities. Bundy's case became a media sensation, captivating and horrifying the nation. His crimes were not just acts of violence, but calculated displays of depravity that left an indelible mark on the American psyche. He shattered the illusion of safety, making us question our judgments and the faces we encounter every day. How could someone so seemingly normal be capable of such unspeakable acts? The 1970s were a time of social change and upheaval in America. Beneath the surface, a darkness spread across the country. Young women were disappearing, leaving behind a trail of grief and unanswered questions. Ted Bundy's reign of terror spanned multiple states. He preyed on young women, often college students. Bundy would feign injury or impersonate an authority figure. Once alone, Bundy would overpower his victims. His crimes involved sadistic violence and torture. Bundy revisited the bodies of his victims. Despite attempts to evade capture, Bundy's mask began to slip. Witnesses described a charming young man with a cast, driving a Volkswagen Beetle. Police sketches circulated and the net began to close in. His arrest was the beginning of a long legal saga. Theodore Robert Cowell, the man the world would come to know as Ted Bundy, was born on November 24, 1946 in Burlington, Vermont. His entry into the world was shrouded in secrecy and shame. His mother, Eleanor Louise Cowell, was an unwed 22-year-old, and the identity of his father remains a matter of speculation to this day. The stigma of illegitimacy in the conservative America of the 1940s cast a long shadow over Bundy's early life. To avoid social ostracism, Eleanor made the difficult decision to leave her newborn son in the care of her parents, Samuel and Eleanor Cowell, in Philadelphia. For the first few years of his life, Bundy grew up believing that his grandparents were his parents and his mother was his older sister. This fabricated family dynamic, while intended to protect him, would later be cited as a potential contributing factor to Bundy's psychological development. In 1951, when Bundy was 4 years old, his life took another dramatic turn. Eleanor, seeking a fresh start, moved to Tacoma, Washington with her young son. She soon met and married Johnny Culpepper Bundy, a cook in the U.S. Army. Johnny formally adopted Ted, giving him his now infamous surname. Despite the stability that Johnny brought into their lives, Ted reportedly resented his stepfather, viewing him as an interloper in his relationship with his mother. The family moved frequently due to Johnny's military career, which made it difficult for Ted to form lasting friendships and develop a sense of belonging. Despite these challenges, Bundy maintained the facade of a normal, well-adjusted teenager. He was generally well-liked by his peers, excelling in school and participating in extracurricular activities. He developed an interest in skiing and politics, even volunteering for the Republican Party. Behind this carefully constructed facade of normalcy, however, lay a growing darkness. Bundy developed a fascination with detective magazines and crime novels, poring over stories of violence and sexual assault. He became increasingly withdrawn and secretive, engaging in petty theft and voyeurism. These disturbing behaviors, though largely undetected at the time, foreshadowed the monster he would become. As Bundy transitioned into adulthood, the cracks in his carefully constructed facade began to widen. He graduated from Woodrow Wilson High School in 1965 and enrolled at the University of Puget Sound, where his academic performance was initially strong. However, he struggled to connect with his peers and dropped out after only a year. The reasons behind Bundy's withdrawal from the University of Puget Sound remain unclear. Some speculate that he was struggling to reconcile his true nature with the persona he had so carefully crafted. Others believe he may have experienced a romantic rejection that deeply wounded his already fragile ego. Following his departure from Puget Sound, Bundy drifted aimlessly, working odd jobs and struggling to find direction in his life. He eventually enlisted in the Army Reserve but was discharged in 1968 for what he would only describe as psychological reasons. This period of instability and uncertainty appears to have been a turning point for Bundy, marking a descent into darker impulses. At the University of Washington, Bundy transformed, shedding his awkwardness for a polished image. He excelled in studies, impressed professors, and got involved in campus politics. During this time, he met Stephanie Brooks, a wealthy student. Infatuated, he showered her with attention, but she ended the relationship, leaving him devastated. Bundy never got over her, and this rejection fueled his dark fantasies. He withdrew, dropped out of college, and his facade of normalcy began to shatter. Ted Bundy was, by all outward appearances, a charming and charismatic individual. He possessed an almost magnetic quality that drew people to him. This carefully cultivated persona was his most effective weapon. Bundy understood the power of perception and used it to his advantage. He could be charming and witty one moment, serious and empathetic the next. This duality, the stark contrast between his public persona and his hidden darkness, defined Ted Bundy. Section 2: The Master Manipulator. Bundy's success as a predator was his profound understanding of human psychology. He used this knowledge to manipulate and control those around him. He knew precisely which buttons to push, which strings to pull. Bundy often targeted young women who resembled his first love. He was drawn to their vulnerability and trust. He would often feign injury to appear helpless. This triggered a natural instinct to help, lowering their guard. Bundy would lure his victims to a secluded location. He would then overpower them using his physical strength. His crimes were meticulously planned and executed. Bundy's intelligence was evident in his ability to evade capture. Section 3: Intelligence Twisted. Bundy's intelligence was a double-edged sword. It made him charming and persuasive, enabling his darkest fantasies. He possessed a sharp mind, capable of strategic thinking, a master manipulator, convincing others of his innocence. During trials, his intelligence was on full display. He relished representing himself, performing for an audience, cross-examining witnesses with skill, using legal jargon. Even with overwhelming evidence, he maintained confidence, smiling at the jury, attempting to charm them. However, his intelligence was ultimately flawed, warped by a profound lack of empathy, incapable of understanding the gravity of his crimes. His intelligence became a tool for manipulation and destruction. Ted Bundy's interest in psychology was more than just academic. It was a tool to understand and exploit others. His studies provided him with dangerous knowledge, later used to devastating effect. Bundy excelled, particularly in abnormal psychology and criminal behavior. He studied serial killers, refining his predatory instincts. Some classmates noticed a darker side, describing him as aloof and creepy. Despite red flags, Bundy graduated with a degree in psychology in 1972. Ted Bundy's interest in politics was driven by a thirst for power and a desire to shape the world in his image. He saw politics as a way to climb the social ladder, to gain access to influence and prestige. Bundy's foray into politics began with the college Republicans at the University of Washington. In 1972, Bundy volunteered for Governor Daniel J. Evans' re-election campaign. He soon became a trusted member of the campaign team. With a successful gubernatorial campaign under his belt, Ted Bundy's future seemed bright. He secured a position as an assistant to Ross Davis, gaining access to influential figures. Bundy thrived, excelling at his tasks and earning respect. However, his facade crumbled when he reconnected with Stephanie Brooks. She rejected his proposal, devastating Bundy. His world collapsed, leading to erratic behavior and resignation. The loss of his political career, coupled with Brooks's rejection, sent Ted Bundy into a tailspin. His carefully crafted facade of normalcy shattered, revealing the darkness beneath. He became increasingly withdrawn, isolating himself from friends and family. Bundy's violent fantasies began to take hold. He would later confess to investigators that he experienced a growing sense of rage and resentment towards women, particularly those who reminded him of Stephanie Brooks. The aspiring politician had vanished, replaced by a predator. Bundy began to prowl the streets at night, searching for victims who fit his twisted desires. He described this period as a descent into a dark and terrifying abyss. The exact date when Ted Bundy claimed his first victim remains shrouded in the mists of time. Some experts believe his predatory urges surfaced as early as his teenage years. The Pacific Northwest, with its dense forests and burgeoning college towns, became Bundy's hunting ground. Young women, often students far from home, vanished without a trace. One of Bundy's earliest known victims was Karen Sparks, a young woman living in Seattle. He brutally attacked her, bludgeoning her while she slept. Bundy's attack on Karen Sparks marked the beginning of a terrifying escalation in his violence. Ted Bundy's modus operandi was a chilling blend of calculation and cunning. He used charm and intelligence to disarm his victims. Bundy targeted young women who resembled his first love, Stephanie Brooks. He often feigned injury to appear non-threatening. Bundy would lead his victims to secluded locations. He overpowered them using physical strength and surprise. Bundy's ability to blend in made him a nightmare for law enforcement. As Bundy's reign of terror continued, his crimes became increasingly brutal, revealing a dark sadism that chilled even the most seasoned investigators. His need for control extended beyond the initial attack, often encompassing acts of torture and desecration. Bundy took perverse pleasure in prolonging his victims' suffering, subjecting them to unimaginable horrors. He would bind, gag, and torture them, often using ligatures or blunt objects. His crimes were calculated displays of depravity, fueled by a twisted desire to exert power. Section 4. The mask begins to slip. Despite his meticulous planning and attempts to evade capture, cracks began to appear in Ted Bundy's carefully constructed facade. Witnesses came forward describing a charming young man with a cast or a sling driving a Volkswagen Beetle who had approached them in public places asking for help. Composite sketches circulated and the net began to close in on the elusive predator. In August 1975, Bundy was pulled over for a routine traffic violation in Salt Lake City, Utah. The officer, noticing suspicious items in Bundy's car, including a crowbar, handcuffs, and a ski mask, grew suspicious. A search of Bundy's belongings revealed further incriminating evidence, linking him to the attempted abduction of Carol Darrange earlier that year. Bundy's arrest sent shockwaves through the communities he had terrorized. Could this seemingly normal, charming young man truly be the monster they had been hunting? As investigators delved deeper into Bundy's life, uncovering a trail of lies, deceit, and a chilling lack of remorse, the true extent of his depravity began to unfold. The arrest, however, was only the beginning of a long and twisted legal saga, marked by dramatic escapes, courtroom theatrics, and Bundy's unwavering belief in his own innocence. Section 1. Behind bars. Yet far from finished. The arrest of Ted Bundy in August 1975 should have brought relief. Finally, the elusive predator was behind bars. However, Bundy's capture was just the beginning of a twisted legal saga. His intelligence and charisma became his greatest assets in confinement. He meticulously studied law books, determined to represent himself. He saw the legal system as a game to outmaneuver his opponents. Behind bars, Bundy's charm continued to captivate. He corresponded with admirers, granting interviews to journalists. Beneath the charm lurked a desperate desire for freedom. Section 2. A trial that captivated the nation. In February 1976, Ted Bundy stood trial for the kidnapping and assault of Carol Darrange, one of the few victims who had escaped his clutches. The trial, held in Salt Lake City, Utah, became a media sensation, capturing the attention of a nation captivated by the charismatic killer and the horrors he was accused of committing. Bundy, representing himself, relished the opportunity to perform on the national stage. He meticulously crafted his image, appearing in court well-dressed, his hair neatly combed, his demeanor calm and collected. He cross-examined witnesses with the skill of a seasoned attorney, attempting to poke holes in their testimonies and cast doubt on the prosecution's case. The courtroom became a battleground of wit and deception. Bundy, leveraging his knowledge of psychology and his understanding of human nature, attempted to manipulate the jury, playing on their emotions and appealing to their sense of fairness. He portrayed himself as a victim of circumstance, a man wrongly accused based on circumstantial evidence and the hysteria surrounding the case. Despite Bundy's attempts to charm the jury and undermine the prosecution's case, the evidence against him was substantial. Carol Durant took the stand, recounting her harrowing escape from Bundy's clutches. Physical evidence, including hairs found in Bundy's car that matched Durant's, further solidified the prosecution's case. The price of freedom. In June 1976, the jury in the Carol Durant kidnapping case returned a verdict: guilty. Ted Bundy, the charming law student, was now a convicted felon. Even as he awaited sentencing, he was already plotting his next move: escape. During a court appearance, Bundy leapt from a window and vanished. His escape set off a nationwide manhunt. Section 4. Terror in the Sunshine State. Bundy's freedom was short-lived. After 6 days, he was caught driving a stolen vehicle. He faced a greater challenge, escaping from a maximum security prison. Bundy meticulously planned his escape, exploiting a weakness. He starved himself to fit through a narrow opening. On December 30th, 1977, Bundy made his move. He navigated the prison's corridors, emerging into the frigid night. His sights were set on Florida, instilling fear across the country. The charismatic killer was free to continue his reign of terror. Under the cover of darkness, Ted Bundy arrived in Tallahassee, Florida in January 1978. He rented a room under an assumed name, projecting an air of normalcy while harboring the darkest of secrets. On the night of January 14th, 1978, Bundy's suppressed rage erupted with chilling intensity. He entered the Chi Omega sorority house, armed with a wooden club, attacking 4 young women. The sorority house became a scene of unimaginable horror, forever scarred by the events of that night. Weeks after the Chi Omega massacre, Bundy struck again, abducting and murdering 12-year-old Kimberly Leach. On February 15, 1978, he was apprehended during a routine traffic stop in Pensacola, Florida. Bundy's trial in Miami was a media spectacle, captivating a nation horrified by the charismatic killer. Found guilty on multiple counts of murder, Bundy was sentenced to death. On death row, Bundy confessed to a string of murders, providing a glimpse into the mind of a killer. On January 24, 1989, at 7:16 a.m., the state of Florida executed Theodore Robert Bundy. Strapped to the electric chair at Rayford Prison, his death was met with cheers and a sense of collective relief. Bundy's reign of terror spanned over a decade, claiming at least 30 young women. His name became synonymous with the darkest impulses of humanity. His case forced law enforcement to rethink criminal profiling. Advancements in forensic science, particularly bite mark analysis, were pivotal. The legacy of Ted Bundy is one of profound loss and enduring pain. The case of Ted Bundy serves as a chilling reminder that monsters rarely announce themselves. They often wear masks of normalcy, hiding in plain sight. Bundy's ability to blend in shattered the illusion of safety for many. His crimes highlighted the vulnerabilities of young women. His victims were navigating a world where danger lurked in the shadows. Their stories remind us of the need for vigilance and empowerment. Law enforcement improved communication and investigative techniques. The FBI's Behavioral Science Unit owes part of its existence to lessons from Bundy's case. The scars of Bundy's crimes run deep. Families of his victims carry the weight of their loss. Their resilience stands as a testament to the human spirit. The story of Ted Bundy is a cautionary tale of the darkness within the human heart.